friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks Workshop. Got a real nice video for you coming up here in just a minute about a upright base. The neck had come out of it during shipping. The man ordered it, I believe, from a individual, and the fellow that packed it did not do that well, and so the neck bounced off of it apparently during shipping. Anyway, I was able to completely repair it, and I think it's just as good as new, with very little visual damage to it. I had to create a little bit of a problem there to fix the problem. But anyway, I think you'll enjoy that one. I wanted to give you an update on a couple things. Number one, the channel is doing really well. I want to thank you for all the subscriptions and everybody subscribing and continued watching and all the nice comments. I really can't thank you enough for that. It really does make it worth doing. For so long there, I was thinking, man, I'm beating myself to death on this stuff, and I'm not really getting much out of it. Well, now it's starting to pay off. I'm really getting a lot of views, and it's growing really pretty fast now. So I appreciate that, and it's starting to make it worthwhile. I've got a little short clip I'm going to put in here also about, here on the farm, we've got all kinds of things going on. And right now, one of the things we're struggling with is all the wild hogs that have moved in. They came from Fort Leonard Wood. They were released there I think in the 50s, and in a high pen area, but apparently they've gotten out. And they're not feral hogs. They're not farmers' hogs that have gone wild. These are really wild hogs. They're black hogs. I believe they call them Russian boar type hogs. And anyway, they have long, straight tails. They're different looking than a regular hog. Fairly long black hair. They're solid black. They don't have color on them. But anyway, they're doing a lot of damage. So I have a little tiny clip here to just show you some of the damage. And this is taken, the clip, by the way, is taken from, I'd say close to 200 yards away. But you can still see the damage. I think you can see out there our horses out in the pasture. I'm going to attempt to zoom in and show you the hog damage that you can see literally from here. See how the field is tore up out there where the horses are? That was all done last night, and it's all done by hogs. Crazy. Wild hogs. We have a lot of them here. Also, I'm going to give you a little update, a couple of things. Number one, in the heat of the battle, when I made my little reversible clamp the other day, I kind of did that fast, but my little reversible clamp the other day, I didn't think it all the way through because I was on video and everything, but it's a little easier than I made it out to be. I said you had to file off that little hump there on the end, and you really don't have to do that. These clamps are actually made to be reversible. But a bigger update than that is, I was at Harbor Freight the other day, and I noticed they're selling these clamps for $1 a piece, or at least they were that day. And so I bought 4 of them. I'm going to show you how quickly you can reverse one of these. These are just $1 a piece at Harbor Freight. They seem to work really good. Not quite as strong as the name brand ones, but I think they're plenty good for internal bracing. These actually have a little finger screw here that you can unscrew and just take this off. And so reversing these is really simple, actually, because of that. You just pull this off here, off the end. You bring it around here, turn it around the opposite way, put it back on. So then you have to put your nut back in the little hole here that's shaped like a nut, and then you put your little finger screw back in here. And then what I did was I just took a ruler and expanded it out to exactly 4.5 inches on these jaws, and that's probably more than you need most of the time. And then what I did was I just marked it right here and cut it off. So just expand it out to 4.5 inches, mark it right here, and cut it off. Now the other clamp, the name brand clamp, could have been reversed that simple also. I just, in the heat of the battle, like I said, I wasn't thinking it through, but they are made to be reversible. So that's not like my own little invention or anything. I just wanted to point that out. But anyway, for $1 a piece, you cannot go wrong. I would say get some of these. These things are handy for inside the guitar. I mean, they really are. That's maybe the handiest clamp I've run across so far, other than the one that you could adjust from StewMac outside the guitar. Obviously, that would even be better, but that's a lot of money. These are $1. So you can buy 100 of these. Okay, well, enough gabbing. We'll get on to the bass repair. Hope you enjoy it. Hello friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works workshop. Got a big project, literally a big project. You can probably tell this is an upright bass. It's a 3/4 size. I have it sitting on the chair here to keep it up in the air where you can see it. And it's missing something. Yeah, it's missing something. This, you can see that the whole neck is popped out of it. I might point out here on the back that, turn this around. The sound post is in there flopping around, but you can see how it's broke off here. That little tab is more important than you might think. The strings are always pulling forward, so this wants to lift back here, and this keeps it from lifting. Well, with that being broke off, there's nothing there to keep it from lifting. And you can see it's not a typical dovetail. It's just been chopped out square. If you look at the end of the neck, it's also chopped out just square. There's no dovetail. And the rest of that tang is on the end of here. So we've got our work cut out for us. I think what I'm going to do to fix this, I think just gluing it back in there is, you know, if it met up real good and everything, it would probably hold for a while anyway. But I like to make things fixed where they're permanent fixes. And I don't think that would be a permanent fix. I think it'd be, you know, pretty good, and it might last 4 or 5 years. But one good bop and it's going to come loose again. So what I think I'm going to do, it's going to be difficult, but I think what I'm going to do is cut a block of wood that actually fills this space 100%. It'll be a hardwood, not a softwood. The wood that's in here is a softwood. And I'll make a hardwood block that then I can cut a dovetail in that, cut a dovetail on the end of the neck. Once I get the dovetails cut out and matched up good, then I think I'll glue this block in and screw it in even also. You know, I'll glue it and screw it, because you'll never see those screws. They'll be down underneath the dovetail. I have a block of wood underneath here holding this up. I just have this set in here. It's literally just sitting there. It could fall at any minute. I'm going to try to take some accurate measurements here to get some kind of an idea how high we want this fingerboard at the end back here. I'm measuring the height off of the and it's 4 1/8 inches is about what it measures.
Brother John is a poor hard-working man. His life was hard, but he does the best he can. He prays to God just to thank him for his bread and a roof over his head. Brother John lost his wife when the fever came around. A gentle girl, oh, he laid her in.
I think I'm going to go ahead and cut the block of wood and start fitting that. I'll do some measurements here and see how it goes.
Of God, Brother John, trouble on earth is ending. All your sorrow soon will be gone. You're a good man.
Here's my first fitting to see how close I am. I always shoot for a little big at the beginning so that you can sneak up on it. I'm just looking in there to see if it's kind of matching up in all the places, and I can see a problem down through here. I can see light under here, and what that's telling me, this side looks pretty squared off, not perfectly squared off, but this side here is undercut. So before we take anything else off of here, I'm going to see if I can straighten this up and maybe even straighten this up just a little bit, and I think that's going to make it fit.
Join me now. He fell beside his plow, Brother John. In trouble on earth.
Now again, I can see that the block isn't matching real good. I may have to take a little taper off the top edge of this block to taper it down to fit better. I think I'll try that a little bit and then I'll come back. Well, that did help a lot. I can see I can still take a little more off the top edge here. That squeezes it down in there now. We're down to roughly a centimeter. Yeah, about a centimeter from going in there. And but that was a good move. I'll take a little bit more off of these upper edges down and taper it down. I'm doing that with a sander. I'm just disc sander. I'm just sanding some of this off and just trying to be, you know, sneak up on it, not do too much at once. We're down to about 8 or so millimeters, 7 millimeters, something like that, and that definitely is working. So just going to check it the other direction here, see if I see down through there and see a problem anywhere. Actually, it's gotten pretty tight, but it looks like I'm going in the right direction. I can see down through here very faintly, and it looks like that's what I need to do, is take more off that upper edge. We're down to about a 4 millimeter gap here at the end now, getting much closer. Just taking it really slow. I've been trimming off of the inside joint and the block too, just to try to make sure there's no wiggle. There's absolutely no wiggle to it at all right now. And when you slide it in there, you can't get it back out. It wedges in pretty tight. I'm just going to check now to see down here at the end to make sure it's not binding down at the bottom. Alright, I believe we've got a nice fit here now. It's not real tight in terms of cramming it in there, but it is in there. I mean, you can't just, it won't fall out, but it's not real tight either. You can see just sitting it there, it leaves about 1.5 millimeter gap, and then just put a little pressure on it, it goes right in. And that looks pretty good. It looks real flush on the bottom too. So I think we've just about got a good plug in there. And it's a little bit proud up here at the top. It's not quite touching down there. Pretty sure it will touch though if I tap it on in. Yeah, it's just basically touching there now. So we're in pretty good shape. I think what I'm going to do now is mark this. What's weird is it's deeper on this side than it is on this side. It's sticking out more on this side. So I guess I'll take fine pencil point here and mark that. And see what that's going to take to. Not too worried about chipping this right here. I'm just trying to get it out of the hole. I'm going to cut a dovetail in that area there anyways. I'm just using this to break it loose. Anyway, you can see on this side here it's about that much high. And on this side it's a little less high. So I think I'll just take it to the belt sander and just sand it down until those lines are just about gone. That's about as good as it's going to get. I've got it pretty tight. Actually, it's pretty flush all the way across now. And got it pretty flat across the top there. Might be a hair proud here, just a few thousandths of an inch, but not bad. So that block I think is about as good as we're going to do. Now the really tricky part is cutting the dovetails. The problem I have with the neck is that the fingerboard is still attached. So I could lay my router on here and cut a dovetail, but then I'm going to hit this with my router. So it's going to be very difficult. I'm going to have to give this some thought. I've got the neck held in my vise on the end of my workbench here. You can't see that, but it's got two pieces of leather, big leather, thick leather on both sides holding it in the vise. I just have enough pressure on it to hold it there without it moving, I think. I'm checking out the router. Obviously the router's going to hit the fingerboard, but I can route several inches down through here before I hit the fingerboard. And I could cut the rest of this by hand, and that's probably what I'm going to have to do. I don't really have many other options at this point, so I'm about ready to give it a shot. The tricky part of this is I have to bring this in first. That's the problem, because this is the same width as that block of wood that I just put in there, and that's not going to work. So I'm going to have to bring this in a lot in order to cut a dovetail in it. And I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. Got to give it some more thought. Okay, I have marked off some lines inside the outside edge of this. I'm going to narrow this down, and I'm going to narrow it down to this line right down here too, all the way in, and then I'll cut the dovetail. But right now I'm just narrowing it down, and I just chose to make it a centimeter inside of this outside edge. I'm going 1 centimeter in. If you're wondering why I'm using metric on this, it's because this is a German base. As a matter of fact, I didn't tell you the brand. Let me just tell you that. It's a Hofstainer base. It says it's a copy of a 3/4 Stradivari bass violin. But anyway, you know, it's a plywood bass. It is a cheap bass, but it's, you know, it's reasonably well made. Other than this neck joint, I don't think was done very well, but we're going to have a real nice neck joint here when we get finished. So I've got a straight router bit. I'm just going to use that to rough out some of the area. We did a pretty good job. I got a little reckless on this side here, but it doesn't really matter too much. You know, whenever I get this down to the final smooth thing, we'll make the slot fit this. So we'll do the best we can on this, but it's looking pretty good. I'm reasonably happy with what we've got here so far. Now I'm going to set the depth deeper and cut the rest of this. Well, that's about as good as it's going to get. It's touching the line over on this side. On this side, it's short of the line again. I don't know. We'll have to figure all that out when we start fitting up the detail fit. Well, as luck would have it, I didn't have the camera on, but I used the Dremel tool to route the rest of this out. Here's what that looked like, so you can see what I did. I just used a spiral cutter bit on here and set it to the same depth as the other router, and went all the way up to where the base hit the thing here. Now I only have about 3/8 of an inch to go, so that's a lot less cutting by hand. And then we just got to cut the under bevel for the dovetail, which shouldn't be too bad. I'm using a chisel on this other side, basically just scoring that line right there is all I'm really doing at the moment. I'm scoring the line just so that I won't get any tear out past the line when I start chiseling this out, or at least that's my intent. Alright, that gets my basic shape. Now we actually have to cut the undercut with the dovetail here. I'm going to probably just take off camera, just straighten this up real good, get it as straight as I can get it, and then we'll try cutting the dovetail. Okay, that didn't take very long to cut that dovetail, so what I think I'm going to do, instead of trying to get it all the way with the dovetail, I think I'm going to do the rest by hand with a chisel. I think it'll just be a better job. You probably won't be able to tell much difference in this, but I have taken the chisel, I sharpened up this wider chisel, and I have cut the dovetail the rest of the way by hand and straightened it up by hand. It's nowhere near perfect yet. It's actually kind of a quick and dirty job at the moment, but just about got it to the point where we have to start getting down to the detail now. I'm not making it a real flared out dovetail. I kind of the belief that when you flare them out too much, they get weaker. The wings will break off of them. And if you just flare them out just enough where they're narrower, narrow at the bottom and wider at the top, where they can't pull out, and you make them fit really tight, I think that's actually stronger than a real wide dovetail, because that part that's sticking out is actually brittle. It'll chip right off. So because you've got end grain going right down through, and it's hard to explain that if you don't know how grain runs on wood, but it's actually, I think, stronger to just make a kind of a narrow dovetail than a really wide dovetail. I'm going to use these calipers and get a good estimate here of how wide this is down at this end, and transfer that width to the block, because even though this is the bottom of this, it'll be the top on the block. So, and I'm going to make it more snug than it needs to be for my purposes, and we'll sneak up on it. I have to transfer that to here, so I'm just going to call it 1 centimeter for now. And so that's a half on each side of the center line. And then we'll try to go up here to the wide part and get a measurement. Okay, that's pretty good right there. That measures 3.4 centimeters. I kind of roughly marked where I want to stop, but actually I really want to stop a little bit ahead of that, so I'm going to show that that's about what we're going to take out of there for now. Like I said, you can always do more. It's better to be conservative on your marks and everything. And we'll stay inside those lines, and therefore we should be in pretty good shape. One of the problems with doing this the way I'm doing this is I'm going to be cutting almost all the way through this block. I think you can see I've got this clamped up in the vise. I've got leather on the outside of this. Not that that really makes that much difference. It's just that it makes it more friction. There's a lot of friction there. And so then I've got this block sitting a little bit proud of these other. I took the 2 wedges that I cut off of this block and put them in there to help hold it. And you might think, well, why didn't you just route this out before you cut the angles? And I really wanted the angles first, and I wanted it to fit in the body first, so that I knew exactly how it all had to fit up, and then I knew where the center was and everything. So this is the way I prefer to do it. Yeah, I could have done it the other way and maybe made it work okay, but this way is just more precise in my opinion. So that's why I did it this way. Now I'll get the Dremel, I'll get the router, and we'll just start routing that out. I have the router set up with a straight cutting bit. I have it set about a 32nd of an inch shallower than the thickness of this board, so there's going to be a little bit of wood left, but very little. Or I should say about a 16th of an inch actually. I'm just cutting it with a straight bit because the dovetail won't cut through like that.
In dreams of yesterday, I wander back to my little cabin door. I stroll beside an old rock garden. I saw familiar scenes once more. I heard the organ softly playing.
Well, there you go. It's, it made a nice slot. It's definitely got a lot of work to go yet. We will have to cut all the way through this eventually. I wanted to keep it intact for now while I'm working on getting the angles right and all that, but eventually I'll have to cut that out. So basically we'll be putting a big horseshoe dovetail inside that joint and gluing it in place and then sliding this in place. And you think, well, why would you do that? Well, it will definitely be stronger. I guarantee you, because we're making real good surface contact with this, and that neck, had a lot of tear out before, and it wouldn't have been a good tight joint. This will be a real good tight joint. We'll fit this up where it absolutely has no play at all, and you'll see that it'll be a very, very good joint.
I knew it was the same sweet mother who years ago had cradled me.
More than 24 hours. The glue has dried. I'm going to leave these screws in there because they're just really going to make it that much more solid. I've already taken a knife and scored the edges here of the bottom of this. It's all got to come out of there so that the neck can sit down in as far as it needs to go. I think I've scored it deep enough that I can just chip this out of here now. At least I think I have. I didn't glue the center of this, so it should just come out fairly easy, although I'm sure a little glue squeezed out in the area there.
I knew it was the same sweet mother who had kissed me many times before.
Yeah, it's not very clean, but it just to give me an idea to see what kind of fit we're looking at here. That's looking pretty good already. I like that. Yeah, that's looking real good. Once we get the dovetail cut in there, I think we'll have a really good fitting joint. That's looking nice. I like it. I'm just going to take the router. I've got the bit set to the right depth, and I'm just going to try not to go full dovetail on this because I'm afraid I'm going to hit those steel screws, but we'll see what happens. Well, that was quite messy. Anyway, it looks pretty good. I know that's going to make it fit a lot closer. That's pretty good, man. It's getting down in there. All right, we'll do the rest by hand. That's really looking nice. The only thing I'm not crazy about at the moment, the neck's a little crooked this way. It wants to go that way more than it wants to go this way. So that means I'll have to figure out what that really means and cut it so that the neck will pivot more to this side It goes that way real easy, but that's crooked. So it needs to be, it's almost perfectly straight right there, but we're going to have to work on it to tighten all that up as we go in deeper. I've got the neck fitting in there pretty good. It goes back about this far now, and the last little tweaking looks like I need to take some off the top of this to get the neck to sling this way just a little bit, and I think it's going to work. I've already taken extra off the bottom on this side to let it swing that way, and that's helped a lot, but it looks like it's binding on the top up here. And you can also tell the router was riding, the collet of the router was actually riding on the top of this side. It was higher over here. So anyway, we're going to take a little bit of this off. I'm probably going to use a couple of different methods. I like to use my little finger plane whenever I've got to take off something off the top of something. I can really control this good. You can see how it just peels it right off of there. You can see that black leaving. Real good or not, but I'm going to give it a shot. It's some carbon paper I've got in there. Got it down in there pretty good. It might give me a clue as to where some of the high spots are. Those few adjustments there, we've got it where, you know, we got about another 5/8 of an inch to go, I would say, or a little over a ½ inch, maybe 9/16. And the neck's pretty darn straight coming down the body. It's probably still just a hair to my right, would be your left, but not bad. It's pretty close. It can't be more than about maybe a ¼ inch off, and that's on the length of that fretboard. So, you know, a ¼ inch ain't much up here as far as adjustment goes. Very little adjustment here will make a ¼ inch. I'm just not sure where to take it off at is the problem. Try the carbon paper one more time. It's not the best solution, but it's better than nothing. And I hate to do the pencil because the pencil is so hard to get off. And I'm so close already, so I hate to use the pencil lead. It works good though. Pencil lead works better than this. I'm going to turn the carbon paper upside down this time and see what the neck looks like. We got about 5/16 of an inch. These black marks, I put the carbon paper in there again, and I'm trying to get stuff off of this side here so that it'll swing this way more. It's hard to explain, but anyway, that'll help move it. So I want to focus most of my cutting on this side, and that'll move it a little bit and make it a little more centered, which is what I'm trying to do. It's not bad off, but it's just off a hair, you know.
I shall not bear the cross through yon city when the bird of life I lay down. When I knock on the portals of heaven, I will trade the old cross for a crown. Though the cross oftentimes has been heavy, when all fortune on me begins to frown. But how happy I'll be over yonder when I trade the old cross for a crown. And I will trade the old cross for a crown. When the burdens of life I lay down, when those pearly gates for me shall swing open, I will trade the old cross for a crown. Every cross that I bear for my Savior will at last, one day when He calls me, lay down. And all my sorrow will then be forgotten when I trade the old cross for a crown.
I think we're perfect now. Gotta be. Yep, that's it, boys and girls. That's it right there. Looking down the neck, pretty darn straight. I would say, just being honest, I would say that down here this needs to go that way approximately an 1/8 inch by eye. I'm just going by eye, maybe not even that much, 1/16 or an 1/8. So we're in good shape. The only drawback I see is right here we've got a little bit of a white line, and on this side we don't have that white line. So, you know, but I can dye that. I don't think you're even going to see it when I'm done. Perfect. I'm going to call that as good as it gets. Alright, I've re-countersinked these holes, and I'm going to put these screws back in. As far as I'm concerned, all it takes now is some glue, and we'll glue this puppy up. And as the glue is sitting, I'm going to make sure that the neck is straight on it, and if I need to adjust it, I will, but I think it's pretty darn straight. And the joint is really tight, so I think we're in good shape. I like fixing it this way much better than all those other alternative ways to fix it. This is going to make it look like it was never broke when I'm done. Other than I'm going to have to fix this back here. We'll talk about that later. Only a real base expert would probably know this has been fixed now, other than the back here. It's going to be obvious on the back, but and nothing we can do about that. But at least it's done right. It's, you know, it's not got a bunch of screws in it and all that kind of stuff. Now, granted, those screws that are in there holding that block in, the block's probably fine just the way it is with the glue, but I thought, you know, what the heck, you're not going to see them. Nobody will ever know those screws are there, so might as well leave them in there. Well, I'm hoping you can see that we've got the neck glued on there. It's solid, and we're at 4 inches, 1/16 of an inch, or maybe even a hair over a 1/16, so we're just shy of the 1/8. 4 1/8 was just my guess at what this was set at when it came to me because the neck was already broke off, so I had to just fit it on there. So, you know, my guess was 4 1/8. We're at 4 1/16. I mean, if you can put something back together like this and be within a 1/16 of an inch, I'm happy. So that worked out good. Can't complain about that. And as far as I can tell, it's right down the center of the neck, or right down the center of the body, the neck is. So I'm real happy with that. The next issue we have on this is this heel plate is missing. Now I saved the piece that I took off of here, but it's not even really in line with this, and I don't know that it's going to look much better if I try to save it or not. I don't know. I haven't made up my mind on that. But the problem is, in my opinion, this plate going from here all the way to here, holding on that, gives that neck a lot of strength because it won't let it pull this way because it's glued to this body and it's glued to the end of here. I told the customer that when he dropped it off, and he says, look, do whatever you have to do to make it strong. He says, I'm not too concerned about the looks. So he says, if you have to cut it off, don't worry about it. I said, okay. And that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm still going to try to make it look as good as I can, but I'm going to try to cut it off about like so. That'll give me over an inch of surface here to glue to that I can put a patch all the way from here down to here. And I really think that will make it a lot stronger. I don't think it's going to be the answer to everything, but I do think it'll add a lot of strength. Otherwise, I wouldn't even bother. I would just glue this patch back on here and, you know, fill this and try to color it and match it and just call it good. But I really think we'll be strengthening it a lot if we can get this off of here and add a little piece in here. What I'm going to try to do is make it a very fine razor saw line across here. You know, I don't have to do this, but I really feel like this is going to make it a stronger thing, so that's why I'm doing it. I've drawn a pencil line across there. I doubt you can even see it. I'm going to try to cut it with this razor saw. So I think I'll score it first. I'm going to put this on here. Matter of fact, I'm going to put some two-way tape on the bottom of this because this is going to want to slide. It's real slick. Even with the two-way tape on the ruler holding it there, it still wants to flex a little bit. So I'm going to try to hold it as best I can. I'm going to take this X-Acto knife and I'm going to score it. And I kind of think that'll help my saw follow a straight line better. Well, I regret not having the camera rolling now. I was just going to test the waters here. I just took the chisel, put it in the crack right there, just tapped it with my hand, and this just popped right off, no problem at all. Now, you know, it left a little bit of problem, but that's okay. I can, you know, what I was planning to do anyway was reduce the thickness of this and, you know, make it, oh, I don't know, you know, take a third of the thickness off of this. This part here is too high anyway, so what I was going to do is level all this down, put a solid piece all the way across this, then lay all this color back on top of here and try to camouflage it in. Now it's just a cleanup job, but this heel is below this block in here anyway. I don't know if I can demonstrate the little problem here, but if you put this flat on this heel and you run up, you run into this block. You can see it hits that block. And here it's about a 1/16 of an inch difference here. Here it's 3/32 higher than here. So it's another 32nd higher, or maybe even maybe a full 1/8 inch higher here than it is here. But anyway, the problem is that it's not a continuous flow. So what I'd like to do is cut all this at a continuous flow angle so that it's a nice smooth angle down to this, and then put the pieces back on here. Okay, I'm going to work on this piece off camera. I'm going to probably clean it up with a chisel first, or this little finger plane first, knock off these high spots, and then I think I'm just going to slide it through my thickness sander. I'll put a piece of plastic down on the thickness sander and slide this through and get this all one uniform thickness, narrow, quite a bit thinner than it is now, so that I can put something in here to take up that space. I have got this pretty well in one plane now. I'm pretty happy with it. I look across here and I don't really see a real problem. It looks pretty good. I've got some just plain maple it's sort of quarter sawed. You can see the fine grain going down through it. It's not perfectly quarter sawed. You can, if you look at the grain on the end, it's slanting quite a bit. But I think it's going to work perfect for this. And this is not going to really be seen much except for the very edge of it anyway. And so now I'm going to lay it on here and trace it underneath. Basically just cut that out, and then we'll thin it down on my thickness sander to appropriate thickness for this. This is the piece I ended up with. It's about, right now it's a little over 1/8 inch thick. And you can see the little dark lines around there that I'm going to have to cut it to yet. Once I get those dark lines gone, then basically it'll be the exact right size. I just thought it was interesting. I'd point out that it fits really good this way. You turn it over this way and it's not even close to fitting. That just shows you that there's no real symmetry here. You know, it doesn't fit the body, it doesn't fit the neck, so it's not symmetrical like you might think it would be. But it's not terrible, but it's off by quite a bit. Okay, I've got this piece fit up to this pretty good. I lay this piece back over the top of it, and I can tell that it's proud, you know, a little bit. So I took my thickness, or my calipers here, and I just lay it there, and I can tell that I need to take off 30 thousandths more off of this. So what I'll do is I'll go to the thickness sander, I'll measure this. It's right now, it's 120 thousandths. So I need to take this down to 90 thousandths, and then this should just match up just like butter. I don't know if you can see that very well, but there's 90 thousandths on the money. Now you think, well, 90 thousandths is not very thick, but that's just about 1/10 of an inch thick. And trust me, try to pull that apart. It's really strong. So that's what the force is. It's pulling along that grain, and so that should add some strength to this neck. Now the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rough this up just a little bit because it's slick as snot on a doorknob, and we're going to make it a little rougher so that the glue has something to adhere to. I'll just take some very rough sandpaper and just rough it a little bit. Alright, just did a test fit. I roughed it up and I laid it on here, and yeah, I would be lying if I said I couldn't feel that groove at all, but it's so minor. I mean, there's almost nothing there. Okay, this is my clamp test. What I've got here is got the piece on here that I want to clamp in place. I've got this piece which was left over from when I sawed the thickness for this off of my bandsaw, so this was just a scrap piece left over, but it's perfect for gluing up. So I'll get my glue on this side of this and on here and make sure that it's good and, you know, lined up. Put this piece on here and then we'll clamp it across there, and should be good to go. comes the most difficult part of the whole thing for me, and that is matching the stain and all that. So what, I have this shellac here, and it's an amber-based shellac. So I just wanted to see what color that looked like next to it. It's obviously much lighter and maybe even a little more yellowish. I've got some good light brown leather dye that I'm going to mix with this and see if we can get pretty close. I put a couple of drops of that brown leather dye in here. I'm going to put quite a bit of this shellac in here, hopefully having enough to do the whole instrument. Well, that's starting to look pretty close to the right color there, at least by my eye. I can't match colors perfectly, I'm colorblind, but I give it to my best shot, I think, it probably won't make it dark enough in the first coat, but if I put 2 or 3 coats on there, it may get dark enough. I'm going to put a little bit more dye in there, see if that helps.
I'm an old dirt farmer, I scrape a living from the soul. Like my father before me, I labor and toil. But my father said, son, you should move away. He said, farm life is dying, son, please don't stay. I moved to the city and I tried to fit in. I thought of my father.
I'll probably give this heel a couple hours to dry. This shellac dries pretty fast, and then I think I might put one more coat on it. It's really looking pretty close, but one more coat I think will do it. I'm going to go ahead and put one more coat of this shellac on here. I don't think it actually needs it in terms of color, but it's I think it'll probably be a little closer, and it'll protect the finish a little better. It'll be a little thicker. I don't know if this will keep or not, but I'm going to just go ahead and keep the rest of this sealed in this little container, and you just never know, with my luck I might need this again tomorrow. We're about ready to fit up the tailpiece on this base, and we could use what's here and it would be fine. I'm sure it would be fine, but I don't really like these heavy steel things like this. I've seen them break this wood out of here a lot of times. They're so heavy and hard and brittle. So I'm going to cut this out of here, and I'm going to replace it with a cable like this. And I like it much better. I think it provides a little more flexibility. The tailpiece can move how it needs to move with the cable. So that's what we're going to do. You won't be able to see very much of this technique, but I'm getting ready to put the sound post in this base. You can see I've got the strings on it. These strings are very loose right now. It's just set in place, so I have an idea where the sound post needs to go. I just literally take a coat hanger and put a I make a very sharp point on it, and then on the very tip of that point, I just bend the point just ever so slightly. Then I just screw it into the wood, and so it's held on there pretty firmly. And you have to have this grain running this way parallel with the wire, and then when you set it in there, you're pulling the grain across the grain of the bass. That's the whole idea. Same way on a violin. It's probably 1/8 of an inch, or maybe not that long, maybe a 1/16 of an inch too long. So I'm going to go take it down just a little tiny bit. I set the sound post where I think it goes. Now I'm using I got it close, Now I'm using the hooked end of the wire to pull the top over a little bit further where it needs to go. I did that off camera, but I did just take a bigger piece of wire with a bigger hook and pull the foot right back over where it used to be sitting. I can tell exactly where the sound post was, so I just put it exactly in the same place where it was. I can pretty much tell where the bridge was sitting too. The only difference is it looks like the bridge was a little bit off center, so I've got it in the same length place, but I've moved it a little bit this way because it apparently was off center before, which is not uncommon. You see that a lot. We got her all tuned up. Seems to be holding tune real well. It's got one problem though, and that is that the bridge is kind of low. The action is really too close, and you can hear a little buzz. It only buzzes on the G string, but that G string, the bridge is cut kind of low on that side. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the bridge back off of here, and I'm going to add about roughly a 1/4 inch of height. That'll raise this about 1/8 of an inch in the middle here. Well, we got her all hooked up. No buzzing. I can't really play a bass very well. There you have it. Hope you like it. It turned out real good in my opinion. I don't think it could have been any better. There's a look at her. Once again, that is a Hofstainer, Auto B Hofstainer, 1992 handmade copy of Antonio Stradivari, 3/4 size, model 895, serial number 92313, it looks like 3. 923133 is what it looks like on the serial number. It's a little hard to read that. But anyway, there you go. It's a real nice bass, and you know, it's a plywood bass and all that, but I think it's made a little bit better than some of the ones that we find around here locally. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.